In this demo, I'm going to move some of the classroom information that has been in both the summary and the detail states into a parent state. I'm then going to make the summary and detail states child states of that new parent. I'm going to start here in app.js. I'll use a code snippet to paste in the beginning of our new parent state just above the existing classroom summary and detail states. Notice the properties it has so far. I've marked it as an abstract state, which means we won't be able to activate it directly. It will only be activated implicitly when one of its child states are activated. I've also defined a URL and a template URL property on it. Since both the summary and detail state URLs begin with /classrooms and a classroom ID, I've moved that portion of the URL into the parent state. Any URL we define on the child states will be appended to what is defined on the parent. The template URL property points to a template file we'll create in just a minute. The one requirement for that file is that it must contain a UI view directive where the child states can insert their views. I'm now going to move some additional properties from the existing summary and detail states up to the new parent state. The controller and controller as properties are currently the same for both child states, so I'm going to move them to the parent and delete them from both children. The params property only exists on the detail state, but I'm going to move it to the parent as well, just to show that it's one of the properties that is inherited by all child states. I now need to clean up the child states a little bit. Since their URLs will be appended to the URL defined for the parent, I need to remove the part we already moved into the parent. For the summary state, that doesn't leave us with anything, but just to make it a little more clear what it is, I'll change this to /summary. Therefore, the URL that will appear in the address bar for the summary state will be /classrooms, some ID value, /summary. I'm also going to remove the redundant part of the detail URL and leave the /detail and the optional month parameter. In order for these states to operate as child states, we need to change their names so that they begin with the parent state name and a period. Since I named the parent state classroom_parent, I'll add that to the beginning of both child state names. Okay, we're now ready to create the parent template referred to in the template URL property. I'll add a new file to the templates folder named classroom_parent.html. I'll paste in a very simple template. It includes some HTML at the top to bind and display a few pieces of data about the selected classroom. Most importantly, it includes a new UI view directive at the bottom, which is where the child views will be inserted. Now that we've moved that general classroom information into the parent view, we don't need it in the individual child views, so let's open each of them and remove that data. I'll start with the classroom.html file. You can see that it currently displays the classroom and teacher. I'm just going to use a snippet to replace the entire contents of the file so that it now just displays the classroom message. Since this view will be inserted with the UI view directive in the parent view, the resulting view should look very similar to what we already had. I'll now do something similar to the detail view. I'll open classroom_detail.html. In this file, I just want to remove the three H3 elements at the very top that display the school, classroom, and teacher. Okay, the next thing we need to do is update the links to the summary and detail states now that they have different names. The allclassrooms.html file links to those states using the UI sref directive. We just need to update the state name so that it includes the new name which begins with the name of the parent state. We're now ready to start the app and see the changes. Just like I've done in the previous modules, I'm going to start the web server that serves the app and data using the terminal in WebStorm. I just type node space server.js to start the server running on port 3000. I can now jump over to my browser and type in that address. I'll then click on the Classrooms link and click on the first class in the list to go to the Classroom Summary view. Everything appears to be working as expected. Notice that we now have a new URL for the Summary view that is the combination of the parent state URL and the new URL we defined for the summary state. Also notice that the basic classroom information here at the top is displayed using the new view we created for the parent state. The message below it is the only thing actually in the Summary view template. Let's now look at the updated Detail view. There's not as much of a difference here. The URL looks the same as it did before, even though it is now the combination of the parent and child state URLs. We get the same basic classroom information at the top from the parent's view, and the rest of the information is displayed using the Detail Child view. I now want to show how other properties like the Resolve property are also inherited by child states. To do that, I'll first add a Resolve property to the Classroom parent state. It's going to use the Classroom ID passed to the state to call the data service and retrieve all of the classroom data. The data will then be injected into the controller's constructor using the name Classroom shown here. We need to update the Classroom controller to take the new parameter. I'll open the file and make a little more room for the editor. I'll then just specify the new parameter named Classroom. We no longer need to call the data service inside the controller to retrieve the classroom data, so I can just assign the passed-in value to the property we're already using on the view model named Current Classroom. I can then refactor the code below so that it doesn't make the network call to retrieve the data and handle errors that might result from that. I'll leave the logic in the middle that checks for the optional month parameter and sets the time period property on the view model. The same parameter that will be injected into this parent state controller via the Resolve property will also be injected into child controllers as well. Our child states don't currently have their own controllers, so let's go add one for the summary state. I'll call it Classroom Summary Controller. I'll paste in the code for it, which is very simple. Since it is a child state of the state we configured to resolve the classroom, I'm specifying the same classroom parameter to this controller. Beyond that, the only thing this controller adds is a view model property named School Principal, which will be set to a value retrieved from the injected classroom. Let's now go configure the summary state to use the new controller. I'll open index.html and add a reference to the new JavaScript file. Back in app.js, I'm ready to add the controller and controller as properties to the classroom summary state. I want to display the school principal's name, which I'm now exposing with the new controller, so I'll open the classroom.html file and add a new h3 element at the top that binds to the property on the new controller. You can now see that this child view is binding to one property on its own controller and one property on the controller of its parent state. We can now refresh the app and take a look at the results. I'll go back to one of the classroom summary links and we see just what we would expect. The new principal name is displayed just above the message, and both were obtained via the classroom being injected into a controller with the Resolve property. Remember though that it was two different controllers, which shows that the Resolve property is in fact inherited from parent to child states. Let's now go see how we can further enhance our app with multiple named views.